Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody. What's going on? It's your man, Big B, Brien Hanley. Welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders. We got our man, Adam Munsterteiger, who covers the Colorado Buffales for 24/7 Sports here, joining us today. Just talking a little bit of Colorado football after the big game that was on Saturday. First things first, again, as always, remember to like, follow, subscribe, continue to leave those comments, all that good stuff, and hit the notification bell so you know when Big 12 Insider stuff comes out. But Adam, look, that was an incredible atmosphere on Saturday for that game of Colorado against Kansas State. Colorado's, I would say, a little bit more used to that type of atmosphere because it's happened a couple of times already. But I would say it was a great football game. The one thing that I can say about Colorado, and there's several different things, but the first thing that I guess I should say about them is that they're a better football team this year than they were last year. Even in a loss, even in some of the things that maybe they still don't do great, you can just look, and this is a better football team than what the team was last year.
I think you just go to the final score, right? This wasn't even a great performance by Colorado, really, and they dealt with some injuries, and I know Kansas State did as well, especially on their defensive side of the ball. But, just to lose by 3 points to the 18th ranked team in the country, which I think Kansas State's now, 17th? So a year ago, that's a score that probably gets out of reach based on how Colorado played. And there were really, you look in every facet of the game, there were some areas in which they needed to improve to expect to beat a top 20 team in that game. So to have a lead with 3 minutes left, it definitely shows that they're a better team. But yeah, it was one of those things where they were down to their second string receivers at a lot of positions, and for them to have that heart was definitely kind of showing some of the depth that we didn't see in this program a year ago.
Correct. One of the things that I want to point out again, and I've said it on several different podcasts, and I'm going to say it on this one again, is look, I know a lot of people may not like Shedeur Sanders for what attitude, whatever they think that he's doing. I think it's just confidence, and I love it. I don't think he does anything wrong. I think it's fine how he acts. I truly do. But if people are going to try to say that he's not a good football player, they either don't know what they're watching, they don't understand football, or they just hate the kid, because I watched it firsthand. It's one thing to see it on television, Adam. It's another thing to see it on firsthand. Him literally getting cut in half and still throwing balls exactly where they need to go. The ball placement was spectacular. I just don't see how people can say that this kid is not a spectacular quarterback. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. He's the best quarterback in the country.
He broke a school record on Saturday for most consecutive completions without an incompletion. And actually that streak was broken by just a straight up drop pass by a receiver. So yeah, he was out there dealing it. Now, a couple of those sacks, even he admitted that he definitely didn't feel the pocket the way he needed to. And so that's the biggest concern. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about a quarterback that doesn't have consistent pressure, and he doesn't have a running game, or at least in that football game. He did the prior 2 weeks to some extent, but in that game, Colorado had negative 27 yards on the ground, obviously including that lost sack yards. That was the fewest rushing total in any Big 12 game since 2006. So that's what Shedeur Sanders was trying to overcome on Saturday. And so he definitely was the least of their issues in terms of not being able to come out on the winning end there.
Absolutely. So, you mentioned injuries, and everybody knows about the big injuries. Any updates on any of those guys? I know Coach Prime said a little bit about it today, but is there any updates on any of those guys coming back for this week coming up?
He said that Travis Hunter is going to be back in the mix against Arizona. So we get that Tetaroa, McMillan, Travis Hunter matchup that I think we've all been kind of waiting for anxiously. And Jimmy Horn Jr., who was knocked out in the first half, he's one of Colorado's top receivers, is also expected back in the mix. Omarion Miller, who was really the team's fifth receiver, but every time he came in the game, not just this past Saturday, but in previous weeks this season in a limited role, he was making big plays. He went down with the season-ending injury, so he's out of the mix. But you're getting Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn Jr. back, and those are the big guys that went out in Saturday's game.
Gotcha. So it's good to hear on some fronts. Amari Miller, not so much on his front, which is too bad because, yeah, he was playing big-time football up until that point. Good for him. They got a big game coming up, this weekend. And I know that a lot of Colorado games are pretty high profile just because of, the coverage that the team gets. But how do they bounce back? Last year, they didn't necessarily respond well. And I think we can just say that they didn't respond well, coming back off of big games that maybe they had lost. This team, again, we're saying it's different, but now I think they got to kind of show that they're a little bit different going back on the road to go play a team that's also pretty good.
Yeah, no question about that. I feel like it's been pretty clear that this team is different. Not only we talked about what they did on Saturday, but really since the second half of their second game against Nebraska, the defense has been pretty salty. They definitely were tested by DJ Giddens on Saturday.
Right.
But generally, this is a defense that's played pretty well. And it's a pretty good matchup, I think, for Colorado heading out there. And weather's not going to be too hot. It's going to be in the 70s out there, so that's not going to be a factor, even though it's going to be an afternoon game. Noah Fafita and McMillan are maybe one of the best duos in college football, and there are times where Arizona's defense is pretty salty. They're one of these teams in a conference that, as we've talked ad nauseum about, is full of parity,
right,
and has all these Jekyll and Hyde teams. When you talk about Jekyll and Hyde teams, I think Arizona's got to be at or near the top of the list in this conference. You could turn on an Arizona game and for 10 minutes they look unbeatable, and then you come back 10 minutes later and they don't look like they could beat anybody. They
right.
really have been up and down in different stretches of different games this year, and so I don't really see Colorado as the underdog in this game. I know the odds makers do, but again, that kind of goes back to being pretty confident this is a Colorado team that's built a little bit differently than we saw last year.
Right. And one of the things, you mentioned it earlier about DJ Giddens. Kansas State was able to run the football at will for basically 3.5 quarters. But Colorado has been good against the run this year for the most part. Not for the most part. They had been good against the run this year. And it was one of those things that they had to provide so many resources basically on that, especially on that final drive, to try to stop the run, that they were able to throw the ball over their head. Arizona runs the football a little bit as well. I feel like this can be advantage, kind of what you talked about. If Colorado can get back with stopping the run without having to put so many resources up there, then that's going to help them out when Arizona actually throws the football. I think that can be to their advantage. If they can stop them with 6, 7 in the box versus having to put 8, possibly even 9 in the box, I think that's going to help moving forward in this game.
Like you said, Arizona can run the ball some, but they don't have DJ Giddens. That was a truly special performance that he put together in Boulder. And there were certainly moments in there where, especially Shiloh Sanders had a rough game on the back end of the secondary, getting faked out of his shoes a few times there, and kind of leading to some bigger plays. But generally, that was a lot of that was just DJ Giddens really showing that he's a special player. I felt like I feel like Colorado will match up a little bit better against the Wildcats running attack.
Yeah, I think so too, man. Basically, everything is still in front of Colorado right now. A lot of people want to say, well, they got beat. This is showing who they are. I think those people are just the people that are just going to hate the Colorado program no matter what they do. But everything's still literally in front of them right now. I know they lost the game, but they can still go to the Big 12 championship. They can still win the Big 12. They can still get in the college football playoff. Is that kind of the message that Coach Prom is putting out there right now? Is like, hey, we got beat. I get it. We need to get better. But our season is far from over, and everything that we want to accomplish is literally still in front of us.
Yeah, no question. And you could make a case because Colorado doesn't play BYU. They don't have Iowa State on the schedule. You could make a case Kansas State is the best team that they will end up facing in terms of what's ahead of them on the schedule. So that part of it kind of rejuvenates you a little bit as a program. But that said, the loss against Kansas State at home when you have a lead with little over 3 minutes left and not being able to clinch that, it puts a lot of pressure on you going out to Tucson. You don't want to go out there and then have your second conference loss already. If that happens, yeah, some of the goals, like going to a bowl game and all that is definitely within reach. But I think they need to go out to Tucson and make a statement if they do want to continue to be part of that, conference championship discussion.
Yeah, I like that approach. Like you said, making a statement, because again, if you want to be part of it, these are the games that you have to go and win. There's games that are going to be tougher. There's road games that you have to go win. I kind of am leaning your way, Adam. I kind of feel like Colorado might be better than Arizona. It's what you said, just Arizona's so up and down, just so up and down. I thought that, last week they were going to hit their upswing because they were down the week before. Well, they went even further down, and BYU kind of put them on them a little bit. And maybe this is a trend. Who knows? I know they're still dangerous, but Colorado's pretty dangerous too. So I like this matchup. I appreciate you giving us your time, Adam. I really do, man. Coming off of a big game. Look, like I said, man, I had fun out in that atmosphere. I don't get to do that very often. So it was a good time out there, and we want to thank you for your time today.
Of course, anytime.
All right. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. We will be back with more Big 12 Insiders soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.